Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's the last of the races before we get our final major upgrade, which is the underfloor. However, Singapore is notorious for having a pretty heavy crash spot. Actually, two pretty heavy crash spots that can cause retirements. Last year, Max Verstappen drove into the back of Pierre Gasly, took him out of the race, unfortunately, but that did then give Seb a podium. So things can happen at Singapore. Now, obviously, as I said at the end of last race, our car comparatively to this time last year is nowhere near as strong, which is a little bit weird. But at the same time, if I actually show you what our strength or perceived strengths may be, we're better in low speed corners than we are in high speed corners, and our top speed isn't woeful either. It's just our drivers, Mick included, quite frankly, are driving the wheels off this thing. Pierre, obviously, especially so. That is horrendous, quite frankly. Well, there's nothing else really to mention, quite frankly, so I'll see you for qualifying. Oh, I did give Mick a point. It didn't change his overall. An interesting set of practices with comparatively few crashes. I wonder if that's been modified since the last time I played Singapore properly. The ones to pay attention to in qualifying are Bottas and Perez, because Bottas was in the top 5 on his first run, but then he went on to mediums, and I think the track improved as a whole, because his best time was on mediums, so I feel like Bottas is much better than 12th, and Perez was one of the few people to crash so severely that it put him back in the pits for the remainder of a session. That was in practice 1, and practice 2 he wasn't that competitive. And practice 3, clearly he's not been that competitive either, but he also did softs and then hards, but his best time was on the softs, and as I say, the track improved, seemingly. Stroll, naturally, literally the only other person to actually crash. But yeah, Norris and Perez, the only two to have crashed and be taken out by the crash. Stroll crashed and continued. So pay attention to Norris, pay attention to Perez. Stroll doesn't really matter. And pay attention to Bottas, because I think he's much better than 12th. Ricciardo's the only one with a penalty here as well. But yeah, 100% on everything. A weird one, because it's the first time, as far as I'm aware, that both drivers have required exactly the same setup. Exactly the same setup. Put them both out on the generic Marina Bay, this might work setup. Both of them exactly the same percentage, exactly the same response. So put them both on the same modified one and both got 100%. I'm a little bit concerned that everything went a bit too smoothly in practice as well. Even Mick, who went off in literally every single stint in Monza, didn't have an issue at all in Singapore somehow. Blimey, that Alpine was... Everyone's going for it in Singapore, but I am considering if I do think that Gasly might need at the very least another gearbox before the end of the season. This might be the place to take the penalty, just because this is the last time we're not going to have an upgrade. Those first laps are in, and Perez might actually be slightly broken. I'm actually going to put Gasly back on the original tyres, because he seems to have been top 10 here. Okay, first run's in, and I am going to say that Albon was hindered. Bottas, again, still not certain on. The Mercedes are weirdly bunched together, so either they're both hindered, or that's their actual pace. The McLarens have definitely found something, and this is a relatively long lap, so I wouldn't expect too much time before they come out. I think the Ferraris have found something. They were fastest in practice as well. I would say Mick comfortably in 13th, but we know what Zhou Guanyu's like. He's got to find a lot more than usual, though, this time. The new Mr. Saturday would have to get 6/10ths. And cars are starting to come out. We're facing the wrong way, which doesn't really help. I think we've had one Ferrari, and that's it. I'm actually not certain if I want to be behind both Red Bulls now. I can see the Ferrari's moving, so I'm going to send Gasly. And now the angle changes. I'm mildly concerned that Mick's not going to have enough time to get across the line here, but there are drivers behind him, including Bottas and Magnussen. So two of the drivers that are behind Mick are behind Mick. So if Mick doesn't make the line, neither will they, which will make life so much easier. But we'll go on board with Mick. He's got new tyres on. Gasly doesn't. I mean, Gasly might be 8th, but I've now realised the gap is only 7/10, so I hope the track doesn't improve that much. It's a relatively long lap here in Singapore, of course, but Evan across the line perfectly fine in the end. You know, the interesting thing is, Gasly's not gone faster there, but the interesting thing is, in the tyre selection window, it says the lap time is a 1:43, but the lap is actually 1:35, apparently, in qualifying. I suppose in the race it'll be a little bit slower in general, but Vettel's crossed the line and hasn't improved. Stroll, I don't know if Stroll did improve or not, but he's still in the bottom 5. And then it's weirdly spread out to that Merc who's crossed the line. We're getting the McLarens now. There goes Albon's unrepresentative time. He's up into 11th. The Red Bull's next. We'll see what Perez does. It doesn't improve that much. Perez's car is broken from that crash, so that's something to pay attention to in the race. Someone else just shifted there. Don't know who it was, but they went ahead of Gasly, who does actually improve in the end. Oh, Mick doesn't improve, and Bottas did. Magnussen improved. It wasn't Zhou this time. Zhou did actually improve, but Mick's being mugged off there. Magnussen this time pipped him at the post. And Bottas's time was unrepresentative. I did say pay attention to him because I felt like that wasn't correct. It's concerning for Perez, though. I think I've sent him out on the wrong tyres. I think he's on brand new tyres, but never mind. Not that brand new tyres or track ramping up is actually a thing in this game, so quite frankly, it doesn't really matter what tyres he's on as long as he gets a clean lap, which he won't do if anyone comes out now. I think he'll catch Ricciardo, which is a shame, and that might have been a decent enough pass. 130. It's faster than Ocon, so we'll take that. And more importantly, he's going to be in the way of literally everyone else on his way in. Yeah, he did them on brand new tyres. I suppose it doesn't really matter now, does it? We've got to try and get through. Okay, Perez went better. I don't know about Albon and Doohan. I think Doohan and Ricciardo's times are not accurate. I think Ricciardo was basically hitched on us at some point during his flying lap. I think Doohan has been hindered, but he was behind Gasly, I think, anyway, and I think Albon was behind Gasly in Q1. Magnussen was definitely behind, obviously, and as was Perez. So it's really Ricciardo and whether or not Ocon can improve, because I think Perez is broken to the point where this isn't worthwhile anymore. But we've got to go again. We've got to give it our all just to make sure we nip into that top 10. And if he does get into that top 10, I won't bother with any penalties here. We'll just have to take a gearbox penalty, whatever we have to take it. Oh, do I still just take it here? Because this is the race. This is probably the race where the most carnage can happen out of the remaining 5. Abu Dhabi might be a bit all over the place, but that's Abu Dhabi. That's the last one. One Ferrari. Literally just the Ferrari. That's it. That's all that's gone so far. There we go. There we go. There's the more cars now. 2 Ferraris. More. I'm actually not sure I need to wait for that other Red Bull because I don't know which way around they are. Paris is the one that went first, so actually I do need to wait for that Red Bull, thankfully. Well, we're going to be behind AlphaTauris, I think. Yeah. Might not be the best unless they can pick up their pace a little bit. Well, at least we're not behind the Haas, who we know is slower. Oh, it's Doohan in front of Gasly as well. I think Doohan is just slow enough that it's not going to be that much of a problem for Pierre. I think he's likely to catch up to him, but I think he's only going to catch him to the point where he's going to actually just provide toes on the straights. Fingers crossed. Because we can't really afford to have a slower lap. Ocon is a solid 10th behind. He's done a slower first sector. That's without even doing any catching up. Brand new tyres, slower first sector. I mean, I suppose compared to the first one, they're equal tyres, aren't they? But it was a fresh run both times. I think the race might be medium hard anyway, so we might be able to burn through the... How has Gasly gone slower? This is what I mean. This is what I mean. We're at the end of a session, and Gasly's going slower on equal tyres. Unless he pulls sector 3 out of his arse, he's going to be all right here. Perez does improve, but only marginally. Ricciardo does improve, but only to 11th. That's huge. Ocon stays 10th. This was entirely worthless as an endeavour. Albon improves, goes 12th. Doohan improves, goes 13th, as predicted, really. Gasly doesn't improve, and Magnussen does improve, but stays 15th. Bottas 5th. That's where he was on the soft runs at the beginning of practices. That's why I said pay attention. But Gasly's in the top 10. I like that top 10. Ferrari's on top, and a little bit of variation. There's an Alfa Romeo, there's an Aston, there's a McLaren now. Both Alpines is concerning, though, for the race. Alpine actually used Piastri in one of the practice sessions. Genuinely, I think that's the first time that anyone's used their reserve driver in a practice. Because the AI can do it, but it's taken to Singapore for it to happen. This is a way for Sainz to cross the line again there. That's what was going on. But it's a faster time from Pierre, actually, in Q2 overall, which is nice to see. An overall improvement. We certainly won't use the brand new tyres for this. In fact, I might use like the really old tyres first. Actually, no, I'll just use those ones. Gasly's on track first. That's great. Bottas up behind him, though, so Bottas probably will catch him because I think they are marginally faster. In fact, we're probably going to help Bottas here just because of that. Not a great deal in it, but Ocon is ahead this time round. I'm always tempted to put him on the other slightly used tyres, but I'm not going to. So realistically, we're only really waiting to see Verstappen move here because there's no Perez anymore. And as soon as there goes Bottas. Go on, Max. Go on. There we are. Pierre still got out ahead of him somehow. That's not good news. Max kept a buffer, actually, on his outlap, so we might be all right. We'll watch off-board for this one. I'm actually surprised there's been no incidents in qualifying. God, that's a horrifying sight, just seeing that Red Bull appear behind. And so people crash on this corner, and Pierre's once again gone slower on better tyres. I can't wait for F1 Manager 2023 because F1 Manager 2023 will take all of the work they did on F1 Manager 2022 and then build on it. Like 22 was never going to be perfect. Let's be real. This is the other crash spot. People just go straight on there. 22 was never going to be perfect. Let's be honest. There's always going to be problems with F1 Manager 22. They've sorted some of them out, like the lap cars overtaking safety car. Max is homing in. That's horrifying to watch. Pierre's at least gone faster in the second sector. But things like track improvements, tyre degradation, tyre responsiveness depending on the conditions, all those things need to be massively improved in 23. And also the intelligence, we said it before, the intelligence of not sending cars out if they're safe Can Gasly get past Ocon? He can. Not by much, but he can. I'm still tempted to take the gearbox. Apologies for any camera issues in there. Just having a little bit of a technical issue recently on that front. I don't really know why. It's popped out of nowhere. But I'll move out of the way slightly. Leclerc fastest, Sainz second, Verstappen third. Interesting. Bit late now. It should be a dry race. Oh, I tell a lie, actually. Medium hard is not the strategy for this one. Now, the thing with Singapore is safety cars are not unheard of. Okay, I think soft... Where's the sweet spot for this? Bearing in mind that he's going to burn a couple of laps. About 23. Oh, in that case, actually, is this actually possible? Lap 20. Just, I think. Why do his tyres look worse on this one? Hang on. How are his tyres better here, seemingly? I'll just do 22, I think, actually. So apparently the mediums and the hard are identical. It's just kind of degradation that's the issue. And this obviously wouldn't be lap 45, would it? So apparently that would be faster, but I'd rather have better tyres at the beginning. And I presume Mick can actually go even longer on this just because he's got brand new tyres. Yeah, he can probably go to about 25, apparently. Mick's better on his tyres. He could actually probably do soft medium. Yeah. We've always got to be prepared for a safety car, knowing that these hards would probably run from probably lap 15 to the end of the race. Like, lap 15 is probably the sweet spot for safety cars. It's a long old race, 61 laps of at least 1 minute 40 probably for race pace. Yeah, the other two bits of Pierre are okay. It's just the gearbox. I mean, 69% nice for now, but I think we hold off here. I think we hold off in Singapore, even though this is the last race before the last major upgrade, and therefore, theoretically, the worst Pierre's going to be for the remainder of the season. I think we hold off here because I think this is also the most likely someone destroys his gearbox. I just know what's going to happen. I think if I just put a brand new gearbox in, someone's going to drive into the back of him and we'll lose it again, like this one. And I just realised I didn't do this for qualifying, so apologies to my drivers. I did actually sandbag you a little bit in qualifying.
And it's lights out. And away we go.
Off the line, Pierre 9th, Mick 15th. The Ricardo penalty seemingly back of the grid. A lot of jostling for position. Gasly on the outside and Norris. Things seem louder for some reason. Hopefully that's not the case for you guys too. Magnussen got Perez off the line, but Gasly's overtaken Norris. We might as well rewatch this. As clear as day. Lovely work, really. Around the outside, onto the inside there. Having to negotiate the Alonso, I think it is ahead of him. Ironically for the Astons. But we'll come back in now. It's only a few corners in, but race start seems to have gone smoothly. No one's crashed on that corner. Mick's taking Perez, sorry. Cutting back out again. I mean, a lot of jostling again as he goes into what I think is actually one of the crash corners. Couldn't really see the move, quite frankly, from the camera angles. Good work there, team. But considering Perez is wounded, that's probably not a bad thing to have done. Now it's Mick on Magnussen, the person who actually punted him out of the Q1 in the first place. So as pacey as Bottas was, he's struggling to keep up with the top four. To be fair, Russell's not really keeping with Bottas either, seemingly, which is interesting. It looks like Gasly's having a look at Alonso going into this section. An overtake there is wild, Pierre, but okay. The move's still going into this final corner, but I think he'll have position going into the main straight, and he does. I mean, I don't know which part they're going to focus on here because he was doing this move for about 4 minutes. I mean, under the bridge side by side is incredible. That is a level of cojones to aspire to. But yeah, if we get ourselves in a good position, if we don't blink too early, as some people, fell foul to in real life at Jeddah this weekend, if we don't blink too early in regards to making a pit stop, I think realistically all we need to do is just keep in touch. Mick did take Magnussen at some point, or literally just now, I guess. As much as I love Mick, we won't bother watching that one. Actually, we might do, because we've got to pay attention to Gasly and Russell at the moment. So this is down that straight as well. It's where he took Perez, although I think he took Perez a little bit later down. Yeah, nicely done. No DRS, of course, at this point. So that's just straight up raw overtake. Gasly and Russell is something that's going to be... Oh, we're still deploying, I now realise. We probably need to stop doing that. Fuel's fine. Tyres probably okay. Bottas has lost his 1 second. In fact, Bottas has lost his second, so I think actually I might take Pierre off his tyres. I don't think we need to be this aggressive for keeping in touch with Bottas. Mick, I wouldn't mind getting Doohan before I take his tyres off. Mick is all over him. I mean, Mick's not going to do Pierre, is he? No. That button was a bit sticky. Sorry about that. I'm back out. DRS activated, of course. Won't be active for this main straight. Sainz can't keep pace with Leclerc up front. I do apologise if everything is a little bit louder. I don't know why. It just feels louder. But I think there's DRS on this upcoming straight for Mick. So if he gets his overtake done, I'll take him off aggressive tyres. Go on, Mick. Put your... Do I need to tell you to drive in clean air, Mick? Also, fuel seems to be burning quite quickly here, which I don't appreciate. I need you to take him. Come on, Mick. Take him. There's DRS down here as well, isn't there? Yeah. Easy as you like in the end. Bring the tyres down. Bring the fuel down. On Pierre, at least. Mick's got a little bit more fuel, I think. So hopefully Mick's a little bit pacier than Jack and can get caught up to Albon. Although it does appear to be some kind of roadblock further up the road, because they do seem to be all stuck behind someone, which might be Russell. Okay, so Albon's fallen out of the second in the Alonso train, so in theory, Mick should close up to him now. Well, he's got back into a second, so I think once Albon's like fully out of a second, we'll be all right there. Gasly just seems to be happy to stay behind Bottas for now, and Mick's not really losing time all told on Albon. Things have gone a little bit quiet in this race up until this round of pit stops. Nothing literally happened. Gasly actually fell out of a second on Bottas, and Mick really struggled to actually do anything, but we're still on 60% and 70% tyres respectively. It seems weird to pit now. Well, I'll take this opportunity to harvest with Gasly, I think. Mick still has Doohan for company, which is quite funny. So Doohan's clearly doing the reverse, by the way. He's clearly going medium to soft. Everyone else who's doing medium to soft is still out, I think. I think Doohan and Vettel are the only two doing medium soft. Tsunoda's just the only other one yet to pit. But Mick's doing a wonderful job for Gasly right now, actually. Pierre can attack these tyres now. He's got 3 laps to really push. Leclerc's on his tail, having pitted. We're not in the race with the Ferraris, of course. Mick's got the other Ferrari for company, but that's only because, well, actually, I reserved fuel on him, and for some reason, that's not really gone well. I mean, he's getting the occasional DRS of the people that are going through him. Open pit options, go on to the hards. Full deploy, full push. Absolutely go for it, Pierre, on this lap. Absolutely go for it. Meanwhile, Mick's entered his window, so he can attack his tyres now. I'm surprised he's actually not really I'm surprised he's actually lost that much time to Doohan. 2.4 seconds for Pierre. Comes out behind Bottas again, which of course he does, but how far behind and on what tyres respectively? 7% better tyres. Don't need to deploy on the outlap. Don't really need to push the fuel either at this point. I'm actually not going to push him. He came out comfortably ahead of Norris. He's on mediums. He actually did gain on Bottas because I think he was over that when Bottas pitted. So we'll see where Mick feeds back in. And Mick is closing on Doohan slightly. I think he's lost the benefit of the tyres now, though. Safety car, safety car. Unfortunate for Pierre, but perfect for Mick, who effectively pits on the lap he was going to pit anyway. Who is it? I think it's a Williams, which unfortunately doesn't affect the race for us. But it's Tsunoda. Which is the crash spot? It's the bridge spot. Okay. Does he actually hit the... Oh, he just misses the McLaren. Yeah. I kind of hate that one. But it's worked out for Mick. It's going to work out for... Oh, actually, is it going to work out for Doohan? Because Doohan's on the reverse strategy, of course. I don't think it's going to work out that well for Mick. I think he's still going to end up 10th, maybe. Although it depends how much more of a lap there is. Now, those intervals aren't really changing that much now, but they have seemed to have winded a little bit from when the safety car was called. So we just sort of speed up a little bit while we wait for Mick to come into his pit. There goes Bottas and Gasly, of course. I'm expecting Norris, and I'm expecting Alonso, really. God, this still feels so slow, even though it's a safety car. Oh, he's still somehow massively lost out. I say massively lost out, actually. Doohan and Vettel are ahead of him, so I think Mick's effectively still 12th. Mick's effectively still 12th, and now he's basically got Albon as a restart, who he was struggling to catch before. So Doohan and Vettel haven't pitted. I don't really know why. They could have pitted onto hards, and they probably should have pitted onto hards, but it's AI, so they just gone, well, we're like 20 laps off where we're going to pit, so we're not going to. Gasly's got his fuel back. Oh, wait, safety car came in. People just straight up didn't. Sorry, I was expecting one more lap. Why is Perez ahead of Mick? Just off the restart, I guess. There we go.
No overtaking.
They pulled the safety car in way too early. They didn't even wait for everyone to get caught up. Normally, they wait for everyone to get caught up now. That was a problem at the start of the game, but like the only reason why it doesn't allow people to get caught up now is when they overlap the safety car again, and they don't let them get caught up then. But no one was lapped, I don't think, so I don't really know why it's not waiting for everyone. But Gasly's got Bottas. Perfect. Just got to negotiate Doohan now, Gasly, on his 60% medium tyres. Done. And that's 5th for Pierre. Probably stop deploying now. You're past him, quite frankly. I'll let you burn the extra fuel. I'm not going to let you burn the extra tyres. Go on, Mick. Go on. Oh. Marginal clipping issues. I can't really allow him to push his tyres too much either, but unfortunately, Russell is being annoying here. Am I going to have to tell Mick to drive in clean air because he's just getting in the wrong spots? Well, I think he's actually got Albon now, properly. I need Russell to take Vettel here because they're just getting in the wrong positions. Or Mick to get Russell. That'll do. That'll do. I'm sorry, it's driving clean air, the cheat code, because he's just getting out of the way and getting the actual attack lines on these drivers now. I can't let him push the tyres, unfortunately, now, but I'll allow him to keep pushing the fuel. I'll stick overtake on him as well. I mean, there's a wonderful angle. I can't see anything anymore, but apparently that counted as a failed overtake. Don't really know why. Go on, Mick. I think I can allow that to go a little bit more, but how's Pierre doing in regards to... I was hoping you'd be closer to Hamilton. I'll allow you to deploy in the vain hope that you can catch. But I don't think you are, and Verstappen for some reason is 3 seconds behind Leclerc. Ooh, actually, Pierre does have DRS and 4 seconds clear of Bottas now. Mick, I'm going to need you to overtake. You've got DRS, mate. What are you doing? There we go. Problem solved. Unfortunately, unless there's an issue for someone in the top 10. Although Doohan, actually, I forgot about Doohan. So Mick actually is top 10 right now. But he does have effectively a Russell once he gets past Vettel to deal with, which I ain't confident about. Realistically, we're still hoping for someone out of the top 10 to not be in the top 10. And as soon as I stopped pushing Gasly, he immediately fell out of the 1 second on Hamilton, which... Okay, but he's got 4 seconds on Bottas now, which is nice. Makes 0.2 under, so we'll take him off push mode as well. But he's within the second on Alonso, because he's called Doohan. So we've just got to kind of hope that Doohan doesn't hold us up too much, because Vettel is actually doing a good job holding up Russell. So Alonso needs to clear Doohan quite quickly here. In fact, I could probably harvest whilst we're stuck in this little train. Until Alonso's past Doohan, we harvest. All right, he's past Doohan. Mick should get him on this straight. Oh no, because Doohan will have DRS here as well. All right, Mick should get Doohan on probably the next run. Russell's through Vettel as well, so Mick needs to get Doohan straight away here, and doesn't. May get him on the very, very, very next one, so that's good news. Now, we actually helped pull Doohan along for a little bit there as well, so that should keep Russell company for a little bit longer as well. Bottas is slowly closing on Pierre, unfortunately, but I'm hoping the benefit of his tyres runs out before ours does, because it should do. Don't forget there's a whole bunch of people on mediums as well that are effectively 10% worse than Mick, so if I don't push Mick's tyres, this 10% might be worthwhile at the end of the race on Norris and Ocon. And similarly with Gasly, there's some people here on hard tyres that are a little bit worse than his. We are in a little bit of a holding pattern for the time being. Yeah, Russell is 3.5 seconds behind Mick. We'll keep an eye on that gap because it's not changing. I mean, unless something drastic happens like that. Who's crashed? Is it Albon? He appears to be on +0. Wait, who has crashed? I can't see anyone stationary. Ah, there. Okay. How many laps remain? I don't know if this is good or bad for Mick because he had the gap on... Oh, it's both Williams as well. That's unfortunate. Mick has another set of brand new mediums. Time consideration. Safety car, 16 seconds. 16 seconds for Gasly is behind Mick. I mean, this does help Doohan and Vettel, but they've already lost their strategy because of the first safety car. I'm intrigued to see what the other medium runners do. I'm intrigued to see what Leclerc, Verstappen and Hamilton do. I genuinely do not think there's any benefit from this point changing. There haven't been enough laps to build up enough of a gap, and they haven't pitted either. I'd consider Mick, but again, 16 seconds is actually 15th, and he'd have to get through these 4 again on softs. So yeah, Doohan and Vettel take advantage. So they'll be at the back with brand new softs. They could be, Doohan in particular could be a bit dangerous there, actually. I'm just hoping Perez, even with a slightly broken car, is enough of a buffer there for those two to stop them making progress. If they even get caught up, of course. I think they will do, because I don't think safety car's in this lap. And I think they'll only need 1 more lap to get caught up. Yeah, they'll get caught up. Okay, so as soon as they're through this tunnel, I'll switch the strategies over. There we go. And the race resumes momentarily. Flip back out, off board. So Pierre's got a couple of laps to make sure he builds up a gap on Bottas again. Similarly, Schumacher, hopefully he can maybe do something with one of these Alpines off the restart. Of course, the one advantage actually for us in this kind of concern about these two soft runners is they're going to be fighting each other at the back here first, because they pitted together. They're going to be fighting each other. But come on, Mick, try and make something work. Obviously, I don't care if Gasly takes Sainz or not. Sainz is at a stinker, actually, maybe pit stop wise. Down in 4th. Mick's taken Alonso. I can't see it, but Mick's taken Alonso, and he's having a look at the other Alpine now. This won't stand, but it's helpful for a position long term, because I can't let him actually attack these tyres really any more than he has. But, sorry, Gasly took Sainz. Will we watch this bit? He did exactly the same thing through the tunnel area. You can see Mick behind doing this very thing. We do like Singapore. And Gasly's got something to prove here after being taken out last year. But that's a lovely position to be in for Pierre, because it all but guarantees him some form of DRS going forward. I mean, he's having to go at Hamilton here without any DRS at all. Mick, meanwhile, is on the back of Norris as well. Let's just try and get through this lap, see what happens. I need Mick to stay within a second of Norris, which he does appear to be. I need to be on interval, really. And Norris is outside of a second of Bottas, actually. So this is a new kind of race now. My one concern here, though, is Russell's within a second of Alonso. So now it's effectively a 4-way fight for 8th, 9th and 10th, which Mick will inevitably lose by the end of this race. But for now, he's got DRS on Norris. And Norris doesn't have DRS on Bottas, and Bottas doesn't have DRS on Sainz. But Gasly has DRS on Hamilton, and Mick has DRS. And we can afford to push Mick's fuel a little bit longer as well. Can't really on Gasly, just because we're about 3/4 of the way through, so we kind of want to avoid being in the minus too often now. But yeah, now Gasly's not pushing on any front. Starting to struggle in terms of keeping up with Hamilton. Apparently Mick's actually trying to overtake Norris, so this could be fun. I kind of don't need him to. He's got both Alpines, which is fantastic for the fight for fourth, whatever fight was remaining. Yeah, so Gasly's lost Hamilton, unfortunately, so Sainz will get him back, probably. Actually, it might be within a second for the detection point, which is there. So Gasly might have the benefit, he does have the benefit of DRS for one more straight at least. Like, our DRS is not great. We are the worst DRS-wise, so it doesn't help that much. And Mick is fighting Norris to the point of overtaking him, and has overtaken him. And now I need to take him off push mode, though. So that was all worth nothing in the end, probably. Mick's just got to be careful not to lose more than one position when he gets re-overtaken, eventually. But the thing with Norris here is they're on worse mediums. Both Vettel and Doohan have taken Stroll, but that's as far as they've got so far. So yeah, Hamilton fully broke the second on Gasly. Sainz has yet to overtake Gasly, but I suspect it won't be too long. Or right now, in fact. No, not yet. I need Bottas to stay outside of a second, please. I'll just push Gasly's fuel again briefly, just to try and keep that Bottas gap up, which it has done. I don't care if Sainz gets past, quite frankly. I just need the Bottas gap to stay over a second. And now we're not pushing. We can just use Sainz as a tow to sort of effectively secure fifth. That'll be nice. Sainz does fastest lap, so that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for Pierre, unfortunately, who has kept DRS at least for one more lap. Similarly, I'm just going to push Mick for a little bit. Just try and keep the gap behind. I'm just hoping someone falls out of a second, but no one's yet to. Oh, it's a blinding race for Mick, let's be real. I mean, he was very fortunate when the safety car happened, but as we enter the last 11 laps, our drivers will have the benefit of tyres. Only marginally so for Mick now, just because we pushed him twice, unfortunately, thanks to safety cars, as Norris gets past him. But only Norris gets past him, which is the most important part. I suspect that'll be back and forth a little bit going forward. It was slowly actually helping pull Ocon out of it, actually. Now, the good news is Bottas is losing time on Gasly, even though Gasly's no longer got any DRS benefits. And we've got a tiny bit of fuel in hand in case we actually need to do push Pierre. I think as soon as Ocon's out of DRS range, I might start to harvest on Mick a little bit, if I can get away with it. I don't think I can get away with it, though. Ocon keeps threatening to fall out of DRS range, but it doesn't materialise. And Norris, unfortunately, seems to have the pace now, which is weird, considering his tyres are worse than Mick's. Doohan does the fastest lap, quite funny, down in 14th and 15th for Doohan. And Vettel's on the back of a train that starts with Perez, so this is what we're hoping for when it comes to those two. 8 laps to go, Vettel's on the back of the Perez train, which I suspect is going to be difficult for him to negotiate. Yeah, but Bottas is not challenging Pierre now, which is good. Oh my god, it's Leclerc! Oh, Leclerc crashed. Leclerc crashed. Leclerc crashed, 6 laps to go. You have to ignore. You have to ignore. There's certainly no benefit for Mick to pit because there's so many cars behind him. Pierre, 16 seconds? Oh, it's right on Alonso, 16 seconds. No, it's not actually. That was misleading. It's only 11 seconds to Alonso. This might help Vettel and Doohan, actually. But let's be real, actually thinking about it, there's only going to be 3 laps remaining, pretty much by the time this safety car picks up the leaders. I don't know why it's set off already. It hasn't picked up anyone yet. And because of this, it's going to save all our fuel as well, I just realised. I don't think anyone's going to pit, so we'll just keep as is. If anything, this might help Mick. We've not had the safety car in warning, which I was half expecting, but I suppose it's because he's not even done 1 lap yet. Yeah, the safety car's not in, so that's fine, I guess. Safety car's got to be in this lap, right? It's not great news for Gasly, because he's got to deal with Bottas again. I think we've only got, what, 4 laps? 5 laps inclusive, and we're going to have full ERS, plenty of fuel to push on, and in Gasly's case, plenty of tyres to push on. You know, some of theirs are on 40%. Tell you what, I mean, it might have saved their races, actually, because they're not going to dip behind, and it is going to end. It might have saved their races, because they're not going to be much below 40 by the end of this race now. And I think the soft tyre benefit is largely vanished. Now, they've got a bunch of hard runners ahead of them, and Ocon is the one behind Mick with worse tyres. So once again, once they're through the tunnel, we'll flip over to full attack mode. I'm going to have to take Mick off full attack mode almost instantly. All right, so they're through the tunnel now, so push on everything. I don't know why they've actually used literally any ERS on harvest there, but whatever. All right, so there goes the safety car, and here comes the start of the race again. Pierre in a slightly odd position, immediately on the inside of Sainz, in fact. He's gone for it. Sainz has gone on the outside, unfortunately, as well, which is going to help Pierre. We'll keep an eye on Mick behind. Vettel got Albon. That's what I'm concerned about. Mick's going to have a go at Norris, of course. Yeah, I'm going to have to take Mick off his tyres like straight away. But come on, Pierre. I mean, I love that angle, but you just can't see anything. Can't see anything by the end of it. Mick's really having a nosy here. It'd be fascinating to know the intervals after one lap. All right, so we'll save some of that for if we actually want to make a move on someone. But for now, we leave. Pierre's having a go. Pierre's having a go. He's having a look. He's having a look. He's not having a go. Okay, so tyre temps within range again. Very much so for, I say within range, they're slightly high. If we can get Ocon outside of a second by the time DRS reactivates in like 2 laps, or 1 lap I suppose it would be now, that'd be great. But I'm going to put it on overtake just to see if we can break the Ocon 1 second more than anything. I don't really want him to overtake, but I just want to break the second. Unfortunately, this is a train with Hamilton, so actually I can't really use overtake because it's a 3-way fight. And Mick is struggling to keep in touch with Norris, whose tyres should be getting close to the 40% barrier point. 2 to go. Bottas is just in touch, but he's still far enough off that it's not an issue. I can keep pushing Gasly to the end now, but Sainz is having a go on Hamilton, whose tyres I think have gone. Yeah, can't push that fuel anymore. Well, we can deploy on the last lap with Pierre. There's actually a sniff of a podium here if Sainz can pull away. If Sainz can pull away from Hamilton, which I don't think is happening, unfortunately. Okay, we're getting a little bit perilous with Mick there. That was dangerous. That immediately put him out of a second. Oh, God's sake. Tack fire the lap, Mick, just to be safe. Oh, he's got DRS, so whatever the detection point was, deploy on this lap.
Can use any.
This is tight on the fuel. Tighter than I'd like. Hamilton still has DRS, unfortunately. Mick could get Norris. I don't know who to look at here because... Oh, Hamilton's outside of a second. Is he out of a second? Did he have it at the right... Oh, he still had it at the right point, though. That's a shame. Come on, Pierre! This is for a podium. I really should focus on him, even though Mick's more likely to make the move. Although I say that, it's drained, but he's deployed. Mick's making the move as well. Pierre's in the barrier, but we'll gloss over that. That's nice to see that's going the right way. Mick! Third! Third for Pierre. I'm having to focus on both of them. Into the final corner. Mick's got him. I don't know who I'm happy for. Pierre got fastest lap as well. Out of nowhere. Oh, and as predicted, Vettel did struggle with Perez. I mean, third for Pierre is fabulous from 9th or whatever it was. But 15th to 6th for Mick. Back-to-back podiums for Pierre too. There's nobody else with him apparently. Oh no, there they are. Oh, what a pity for Leclerc. Especially as Max won as well. Up 2 for Max. Carlos Sainz doesn't budge. Hamilton and Bottas stay 4th and 5th. But up 6 for Pierre. Up 9 for Mick Schumacher. In the end, this appears to be a bug that's persisting. I might get out of the way a little bit. I don't know which way's best to go there. Pierre does the fastest lap on the last lap for an extra bonus point. And extra money for us, because I think it was the mandatory one. I say mandatory. I mean, the music is very distracting when you're on this page. It's not like I skipped the podium. Right, anyway. Fastest lap was the permanent bonus one, the one that I couldn't... The one without any drawbacks, the one that the game just automatically pops in for you for this week. So fastest lap was the one that I didn't add myself. It's another podium for Carlos Sainz. But Pierre's had 5 fastest laps of the season, which is so funny. And gets ahead of Charles Leclerc, who was on pole today, who I think gets the point for pole, which has been a thing this season and I completely forgot about. I mentioned that I wouldn't reset for that kind of change to the regulations, but just because he's got a point, so I'm guessing that he must have a point for pole. George Russell was 10th, that's why he's got a point. Fernando, 4 points, 2 for Ocon, 8 for Mick. Bolstering that 10th place that Valtteri was coming for with his 10 points. But 8 points for Mick. You love to see it. Closing in on Esteban in 9th. Quite frankly, at this point, Alonso's probably out of shot unless we can do something miraculous with the car in these last 5 races. Well, solid 24 points. We actually close on Merck. Could we? 80 points? 5 races. Nah. 994 for Pierre. Gets a development point. Mick gets another 1,250. It's pity his qualifying isn't it that good because he gets so much more for that. If he got to Q3, he gets 75 points times by 1.22, so effectively 100 probably. It's such a weird race because you get... He actually had a lot of successful defends, actually. 24 successful defends. Both drivers get their bonuses, unfortunately. But fortunately, and Pierre's back to 5th, of course, so we will actually bolster his defending, get these all up to 80 for the time being. I suspect Mick's still a little bit way off for another one. And then only another 1,000 points. So another good week again, Mick will get another point again. And our reserve driver needs points, but Christ, he's so far off. It's unbelievable. I really thought it would be faster to develop them, if I'm honest. I know I don't put him in for any practice sessions, but Mick needs all he can get, and Pierre, I like to maximise too, quite frankly. So the most important things here, chassis resets for next year, tomorrow, underfloor, the day after. And then it's the Japan Grand Prix in 4 days' time, and then the USA a week after that. The calendar is a little bit thick and fast at the moment. I say the week after that, it's 2 weeks after that. We've got Mexico immediately after that one. And of course, then we finish with Brazil and Abu Dhabi. And then there's the new season to come after that. So, which we will do, I think. We will do that. So, for the last race, where our car doesn't have any further upgrades. There's one more upgrade coming next race. But for the last race with the kind of rubbish car, 3rd and 6th. It ain't bad, is it? If you enjoyed this episode, do like, comment, subscribe, and I dare say the remaining 5 races might be a little spicy then. Until next time, ta-ra.